In my own experience, which I guess is the story that I know most about, in thinking about that, I've been involved in supporting people in those three different situations. Firstly, my father was really the first person in my family to die and the first person who I was involved with in a caring kind of capacity. My parents were immigrants to Australia, and so they didn't have any wider family. So the death of my father, apart from my clinical background, was really my first experience of death in a supportive role as a family member. He died after a sudden illness on a background of chronic illnesses which he was managing really quite well, suddenly became unwell and was admitted to intensive care, and he had a period of time in intensive care for 3 weeks, after which time it seemed that it was apparent that it was really the end of his life, that no further treatment was going to be of benefit to him, and so he was transferred to a hospice where he died 5 days later. So I had that experience. The next experience that I had was in supporting my sister, who was 41 when she died of metastatic bowel cancer. From diagnosis to death was almost 3 years, and she was supported beautifully by her partner. And I was, I guess, in that immediate circle of support for her. So she had lots of various treatments, both Eastern and Western medicine, and she tried lots of different things. And she had some wonderful moments in those 3 years. And at the end of her life, she was admitted to a hospice, and she died in a hospice after a period of a few days, with all the family around and us all by her bedside. My other experience was the death of my mother. By this time, I had learnt really quite a lot. My mother was in an aged care facility where she'd been since my father died. He had been her carer, and whilst she was extremely cognitively able, she was quite physically challenged and really needed a lot of support, and that's why she was in an aged care facility. At the beginning of that journey, she was really unhappy. She'd just lost her partner of 60 years. Her daughter, then her youngest daughter, then died a year later. So it was a very unhappy time for her in that transfer to the aged care facility. But she rose to that challenge and did actually manage to have some very happy times in that later part of her life. But suddenly one day I had noticed over a period of time that she was becoming more frail, and she just announced one day that she felt that she was at the end of her life, coming to the end of her life. So my experience told me to listen to that, absolutely. So I left my work and said, I don't know when I'm coming back. This is really important. I need to be with my mother. I can't juggle work and this situation, which I've tried to do before, and it was just really difficult. So I was at my mother's side and we had 3 weeks together, after which time she did die. But in that period of that 3 weeks, I was able to have those difficult conversations. I was able to rally the help that she needed. The palliative care team were involved. I was able to be with the rest of my family. We were all together. We had some wonderful times. We had some very funny times. We had some sad times. We talked about Mum's early life in Ireland and her life with my father. We had lots of reminiscing, lots of talking about validating her life, really. She was very clear that she wanted to understand what was going to happen. She was a very pragmatic person. She wanted to know exactly what was going to happen. How will they know that I'm dying? Will they believe me? What will happen? What will I look like? Will I be unconscious? Will I be in pain? Will they give me something if I'm in pain? So she really wanted to understand all of those questions, and we were able to answer all of those questions. So at the end of her life, it was really of great interest to me to really believe that somebody can be ready to die She understood what was going to happen. She looked around at her family and thought, well, everyone's in an okay place. I'm actually really tired. I've had enough. I've had a great life. I'm really happy with my life, but this is it. It's time for me to go. And she died a very, very peaceful death with very little intervention, surrounded by the carers in the aged care facility who knew her very well and who loved her, and they knew exactly what she wanted and the way she liked things. Her family were all around, and my mother was really not frightened and ready. And we all came away from that situation feeling incredibly sad, but we also knew that my mother was totally at peace and she was happy with her life. So I guess when you ask what story is most important and what highlights the importance of this work, I think it's in understanding that that situation is possible. Not everybody is going to get to that point in their life, and some people will remain in denial and just not be able to accept the situation, not want to discuss it, and that's fine. That's completely up to them. It's their choice. But it is possible for people to have what's referred to as a good death, and it is possible to support people to try as hard as they can to achieve that for other people.